All right, so peace, family. I don't want too much of your time. Happy Friday, all that good stuff. Hopefully you have a good weekend. Well, let me start off by saying this. It's not good to always be right. Like, it's not a good feeling to be right all the time. Not that I'm always right, but sometimes even when you're right, it doesn't really feel good. And this is one of these situations right here. So let me set it up like this. So some of y'all that watched that video that I made about POLIGHT, and in that video, what I said was that some of the people who are celebrating POLIGHT's downfall, and don't get it twisted, what POLIGHT did was despicable and disgusting. He deserves to be where he's at. And hate for him right now is very appropriate. But my point to that video was to say, unfortunately, some of the people who are showing this hatred towards POLIGHT really has nothing to do with them being concerned with the victim or the victim's family. In other words, a lot of these cats, they already hated POLIGHT. They seen him as being in the way, or they felt some kind of way because of maybe debates or back and forth that they've had, or they were jealous because of his story of getting money and trolling. It had really very little to do with the fact that they care about the victims. Matter of fact, a lot of them, they would have celebrated POLIGHT's downfall any way it came. Like if he would have went to jail for protecting his family, they would have celebrated that. And there's a brother who I've been friends on Facebook with for some years now. He's somebody that's very familiar with the House of Consciousness, Sadneb. That's how I actually got to be aware of who he is. He goes by the name of Garfield. He's a Jamaican by way of UK. And we've engaged on each other's posts before. Let me see something. Let me show you guys something real quick. Anyway, he put a post on Facebook a few days ago. And I responded to it. Matter of fact, I'm going to just go ahead and play this clip. I'm going to just let this thing roll. Maybe we can loop it. Can it be looped? Oh, no. So he made a post, as you can see right here. And the post says, folks are literally fighting over who hates POLIGHT more, which is an interesting post in itself, right? Because he's one of the ones that's jockeying position to be the one that hates him the most. And so I responded to the post, and like I said, we've engaged before. He's engaged on my post, vice versa. We've been friends on Facebook for years. And I looked at him as an intelligent dude, right? I know he used to do some credit check or some credit repair. He had some kind of credit repair hustle years ago, where he would fix people's credit, deal with trade lines and etc. And I think a couple people said scammy, doesn't work, not necessary, overpriced, whatever they were saying. I haven't seen them advertising that for a couple years now, but so there's that background. But as far as like dropping knowledge and being known as a scholarly individual, an intelligent orator on Sonetta TV, I respected him in that realm. Now, as of late, what I've noticed he's doing is a lot of trolling. He's trolling FBA, he's trolling the reparations movement, he's trolling just a lot of trolling. And that's partly what he does. So anyway, so when he posted this a few days ago, I added my 2 cents. Let's get to it. And there it is right here. You can see what I said. I was like, that's the problem. Everyone hates Polite. That is justified. However, why no smoke for Taharka Bey? He is a documented SO. So do we have to wait until he strikes again until people act like they care? Because that's what's going on right now. People are just acting like they care. Polite just happens to be the target for people to shoot at right now. But like I said, most of the people that's shooting at him are people who didn't like him anyway. And it really has no actual regards for the victim. Because like I said before, if people were really concerned about that, I mean, let's take Nature Boy, for instance. And I played a clip of Nature Boy on one of my videos. And some of the foul, disgusting things that he was saying, like, that should have been red flags right there. I actually covered that years ago when he actually said it on my other YouTube channel. And he let you know that his get down was being naked in front of kids, letting his son play with his joint and all this other crazy shit. And people seen that, and very few people reacted to that in a way that I would deem appropriate considering what he said. I mean, if anything, it shouldn't be surprising now what he's arrested for and what he's doing time for. Now, to be fair, he did move around. You know, he went to Hawaii, he went to Mexico, Honduras. He was moving around. So, okay, I get it. But the point is, like, there are people who have already shown enough red flags that if people really gave a damn about what they're acting like they gave a damn, it should not be easy for these people to operate in our community. So when I brought this up to Brother Garfield, I kind of already knew he's a charlatan. He doesn't really give a fuck. So look at this back and forth that we had. He goes, "Are you 100% sure?" Now, when you say something like that, then you're implying that, hey, if you're sure about it, if you have receipts, hey, you know. I go, yes. He goes, okay, evidence, please. So he's saying he wants to see some evidence that what I'm saying is true. So he's already kind of almost protective, but I get it. More evidence. So of course, I supplied him some receipts, which is the court document that clearly states that Taharka Bey is or was on the registered or the sex offense registry. And where'd he go? You know, this is the paper that I showed him when everybody else was seen. His response to that, which I thought was kind of sus, because, like, you know, he asked for the evidence. I showed him the evidence. His response wasn't like, let me check it out. I even said I can send you the PDF of this file. That way he knows I didn't doctor it, and that way he could see for himself all the information to pull it up on his own. Now, he's someone who prides himself in being a thorough researcher and scholar. So I gave him what he needs. And keep in mind, like, we've been in the same, he added me to some messenger group years ago. I don't really engage in it. I don't really do messenger like that. And I definitely don't do group messenger stuff on Facebook. I'm just not interested in that. Even if it's a subject that I'm interested in, I'm just not in that. Unless it's people who I know and we're really discussing things that are tangible and immediate, right? So I told him I got PDFs, I got other receipts. Here's this particular document. Later on, I gave him a link to one of my videos. And his response was, I'm going to ask him. So his response wasn't like, let me look into this and let me see if this is correct. And if so, yes, let's apply some pressure on that. His response is, I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask somebody who is obviously going to be biased. Like, have you ever heard of someone asking a criminal, especially a criminal of the nature of sexual offenses, that they're just going to be like, yeah, I'm going to ask him. Not, okay, send me the PDF. Not, let me look into this. His response was, I'm going to ask him. And I was like, okay. And then he also goes, also, I don't hate Polite. Just hatred for the act he committed. That's cap. I'm not buying that. But I'm curious, why bring up Taharka Bay not beforehand? So he's implying, like, why haven't I brought this up before, I guess? My response, as you can see, I've exposed this years ago. I've even had my homegirl get this info to Sonetta. He exposed it a couple times, then took the videos down, which is true. Like, we know that he did bring this to light. And then when Taharka Bay threatened him with the lawsuit, he ended up taking those videos down. The video still exists on Exposing Taharka Bay's channel. And what I said is, he's gonna cap. It's obvious, but it's in black and white. He said it was, you know, I kind of just try to give him a brief, you know, because I don't really like writing a bunch of clickety clack paragraphs on social media, but I gave him enough info, right? Letting him know the gist of it and what the response has been, and just letting them know enough for a smart guy to put the pieces together. Then I linked a video letting him know that it's not just him, it's a Phil. It's just letting him know everything he needs to know, that if indeed what he said about Polite is true, because he says he doesn't hate Polite, he just hates the act committed. So does he just hate the act that's committed because it was Polite that committed it, or does he hate the act that was committed for what it really is? His response to that was, I'm gonna tag him. I don't know if he tagged him or not. Taharka Bay blocked me already a good year or two ago, even though he still spies on my page from a different page, because he uses my pictures to Photoshop and put on some of his thumbnails. I've shown you that before. So, you know, if he did tag him, I wouldn't have known. But the interesting thing is, when I tried to go back to this post earlier, I noticed that me and Garfield ain't friends anymore. It's add him as a friend type of shit. So he unfriended me because of me letting him know that Taharka Bay is a SO. He unfriended me, and I'm pretty sure it had something to do with when he contacted the Taharka Bay. I'm sure Taharka Bay said what he says. No, that's not true. These people are just lying on me, trolling. They're obsessed, or whatever the crazy shit that he says. And listen, I don't feel some kind of way for Garfield in front of me. I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that serious. It can never be that serious on Facebook. It was just interesting and confirming to me, because when I made that video about how people are really just having selective and fake outrage over the Polite situation, it wasn't about him at all. But if I'm gonna be 100, if I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all, I gotta say that he was on the radar in my realm of thoughts of some of the people who I saw practicing selective, insincere outrage on the situation. Yes, I had him in mind when I was making the video, but it was no way about him. And partly why he was in mind when I made that video is because of this right here. And because I knew that he already had like riffs with Polite. But this dude did 2 5-hour videos on Polite, amongst other videos on Polite. Hours here, hours there. So, you know, he used it for his channel clicks, this dude. But like I said before, a lot of the people that have this hatred, they had it before those allegations even came. And yeah, he was one of them that I was thinking about when I made the video, even though the video was not about him. I mean, to me, it's kind of disturbing. It's kind of ridiculous that there can be people operating in our community of the lowest denominator and will pretty much cover for them, protect them, ignore them, or ignore what they do, unless we already have a personal beef with them. I mean, like I've shown you before, messages on some of my videos where there was actually women who were attacking me for exposing this dude. Actually, women who actually said that they don't even care if he's a chimo. They're more concerned. This is what this lady said on my post. She said she was more concerned, more so than if Tarkabe is a chimo or a SO. More, but her word was chimo, even though I've never said that. She says she's more concerned with Tariq Nasheed's museum than if she is supporting a violator of children. And this is why I made that video that I made called "You Gotta Know Who's Who." And we could actually expand this principle beyond this particular subject, but we're gonna go ahead and apply it to this subject because that's the subject I'm speaking on. But you have to know who's who. In other words, it's not enough just to deal with particular individuals who are a detriment to our community or a misrepresentation of our community. You have to deal with their followers too, or at least you have to be aware of their followers and or the mentality excuse me, behind their followers, because that's really a micro perspective to what's really going on in the macro. So yeah, this is just, this particular person with their particular followers on the internet, but understand that these people actually live amongst us. For real, for real. So you don't have to be a pedophile. But if you know of one who is doing shady things, and you're allowing them to operate because you're ignoring it, not doing anything about it, giving them bufferage and room to operate, well, you're still by default also a detriment. It's like you didn't rob the bank, but you drove the car, the getaway car. You didn't kill the old lady, but you know who did, and you're not saying anything. In many cases, actually supporting and running interference. See, at this point in time, we have to be sharper than that. There's already a deliberate effort to undermine and dehumanize us. This is why the Sukihanas and the Sexy Reds and Glorillas and some of these drill rappers get so much airplay, deliberately pushed by the machine. It's not because they have talent, because you can't tell me Sexy Red and Sukihana are actually good MCs. You can't even tell me that they actually even look attractive. They're dirtbag Section 8 baby hair, weave, no laces laid, whatever term, I don't even know what that means, but you know what I'm saying. But see, their image being put out and normalized, even though we know the majority of our women are not like that. The idea is in 20 years it will be like that. The idea is to other people that is the representation. That is what all black women are like from the outside looking in. And then as that normalizes itself after a generation, then that's actually what the truth is. See, understand, like, there was a time, for those who aren't as old as me, for those who don't remember because it happened kind of in a flash, I remember hip hop. I remember when Yo MTV Raps in the basement of 106 in Park were popular, and I would wake up on the weekends to watch that religiously when I was an adolescent. And yes, I remember the Too Shorts. Yes, we had the NWAs. Yes, we had the Ghetto Boys. Yes, we had the 2 Live Crews. But we also had the Boogie Down Productions, the Rakims, the Brand Nubians, the X-Clans, the Public Enemies, the Run DMCs, the Jazzy Jeffs and the Fresh Prince. We had ballads. We had some party music. We had some ratchet stuff. We had some edutainment. We had a good mixture, and all these things got airplay. And the people chose who rose to the top, because the record labels in the industry, they didn't even think rap was really going to last, so they really weren't putting a whole bunch behind the promotion. It had to be a pretty much organic experience for these artists to really get on. That's why there weren't that many weak artists back then. You didn't have cats that couldn't rap that were getting popular back then, because the labels weren't pushing them like that. The media machine wasn't pushing like that. There was no social media. But I remember there was a time before it switched. And that's when you started hearing bullshit, garbage on the radio religiously, to the point to where I literally at that time was thinking they're trying to make us like this garbage. And they just pushed it religiously, programming. So for people who think like, oh no, you don't have to worry about some of these artists, they're not really brainwashing the kids, they're not really influencing. If you're a good parent, then you don't have to worry about that. That's bullshit. You can't tell me that music doesn't affect people. You can't tell me that. Because grown adults are influenced by social media and entertainment and what's on TV. So you can't tell me that a child can't be influenced by it. You don't put on, if you're trying to get in the mood, you put on a certain type of music. If you want to work out, you put on certain type of music. You put certain type of movies or TV programs to get different responses. You can't tell me these things don't affect your mood, affect your energy, and influence you. That would be ridiculous to say that. Commercials prompt you to buy things you don't even want. So you can't tell me that there's no influence within these elements. And if they'll affect us as adults, how do you expect they wouldn't affect children? These things are being used to mold images. That's why these artists right now are so garbage, but yet they're still popular. These artists can't even do a live show, but they're still popular. Lil Nas X is trash. Trash. You've never seen him in concert somewhere just bringing down the house. You've never seen any clips of Lil Nas X live somewhere putting on a concert. You've never heard of him touring in your city. Yet he's a household name and everybody knows why. Because they first introduced him with the little corny country song. Then they introduced him to the children. Then he comes out the closet and starts doing everything from twerking on niggas in fucking videos to selling shoes with blood in it, calling them Satan shoes or whatever. So they use him to push an agenda. not because he had talent. See, that's the difference now. I know this isn't really a subject that I started on, but we're going to go there today. We're going to go there today. A lot of these artists, they're not in the position they are in because they actually have talent. See, that's the difference. People like to compare like some of this ratchet, dehumanizing bullshit to some of the ratchet stuff that we had back in the day. And that's it's almost fair if you don't really understand the differences. See, the difference is we didn't ask for sexy Red and Sukihana and all these thought bots. They were deliberately pushed on us. See, even for the ratchet stuff that we had, there was a time for that and it passed. Because that's, you know what I'm saying, like there was an element of that there was actually an audience for. But even if you think about the Too Shorts and NWAs back in the day, even though they might have said some shit that, you know, our parents didn't like, all of them always had at least one or two songs on their album where they took the cuss words out and they spoke to us in a way of empowering and letting us know that they understand. They always did at least a couple songs, plus they did things in real life that let us know that they really rock with us, to let us know the perspective of why they're doing the music they're doing, not to glorify, but to whatever. And like I said, it wasn't like the industry was pushing it on us. Right now, what you have is non-talent being pushed on us in order to create and craft an image that goes out to the world, which devalues us. Then you multiply that with that Carrie, who's that? Carrie Renee, whoever that chick was that did that fake kidnapping of herself. Then that Somali girl who did that hoax. So now when you put those elements in it, then understand what's happening. They're devaluing the woman, the black woman, which in turn is going to devalue our children and us as a people. Then we're seeing situations where when they're quote unquote victimized, it's a hoax. So now it's not going to really be serious when it is serious because cry wolf too many times. Now people ain't going to believe it. In the same way they devalue black men by any time we're killed by the police, we'll check his blood. Let's see if he has some weed in his system, some drugs in his system. Check his background. Did he have a criminal record? Oh, well, then it was justified. It was justified. Trayvon Martin's death was justified in legal courts. Because why? Oh, when he used to get in fights in school. Oh, he called Zimmerman a creepy cracker. Oh, he had marijuana in his system. Oh, he's been in trouble before. So now never mind the fact that he was hunted like an animal by a grown man who shot him down like a dog. The court seen him as justified in doing that, partly because they dehumanized him in the media. This happens all the time. So what do you think is going to happen when a sister gets killed or whatever happens to her? She may be violated. Well, let's go to her Instagram. Let me see. Do we have any Instagram posts of her twerking to Nicki Minaj? It's a subconscious way of psychological warfare of where you dehumanize your enemy so it's easier to kill them or to witness them being killed. Armies actually do that in war. They've done that in war since the beginning. The Japanese weren't human beings, they were Japs. The Vietnamese, they were communists. The Arabs in the Middle East, they're terrorists, insurgents. not fathers, not brothers, not husbands, not men. You use these bywords. Black people were niggers. So it's okay. We're in 2023 now. We have the ability to control our own narrative. We have the ability, as we seen with the Alabama brawl, to get justice in real time for ourselves in many instances. With the right codification and the right attitude, the right mentality, be on the right frequency. And part of that responsibility is also to make sure that we check our own. That we can correct ourselves and each other. Understanding that if we don't, certain things will be a detriment to all of us. I'll give you an example before I get out of here. You ever watch Goodfellas? And in Goodfellas, they did a big heist, one of the biggest heists in U.S. history. It's based on a true story. I actually met Henry Hill before. That's a whole different story, though. So they pulled off the heist, if you remember the movie. Later on, they had some kind of get-together. And Robert De Niro told everyone, hey, lay low. Don't go buy no new shit. Just lay low. We'll split the bread later. Just chill out, lay low. They ended up splitting the bread. They had a little get together. And cats start pulling up in brand new Cadillacs and fur coats and big diamonds and shit. And he was like, yo, like, what are you doing? I told you don't get no new shit. And they started capping. Oh, don't worry about it. We're just going to say that our parents gave it to us for a wedding gift and this and that. And he's like, no. Take that shit off. Take all that shit back. Then he had them killed. Why do you have them killed? It wasn't because they're criminals. They're all criminals. And I've actually used this analogy on Donald Trump before. Like, why do some of these cats in media and in politics hate Donald Trump? It ain't because he's a criminal. They're all criminals. Just like in this situation. No, the hatred and the reason why he had to be dealt with the way, they're indicting him, and the reason why Robert De Niro had those people killed in that movie is because they're going to blow up the spot for everybody. They're going to fuck up the bag for everybody. That's the same kind of mentality, in a way, that we have to have about self-correction. This is why we this is why we put our coons on blast and expose them. When they get out there, buck dancing, doing their Kamala Harris, doing their Roland Martin two-step for the butter biscuits. Now we disassociate. We expose them so they don't have any influence. We let everyone know, no, they're not us. They don't know. Well, that's the same kind of mentality we have to continue to have. And there's certain individuals that cannot be allowed to associate with us, or people are gonna end up confusing them as being representatives or associates of us. And that line has to be drawn. Especially when they're an actual detriment, literally and physically, to the group. So yeah, unfortunately, there's people out there that's capping. Like I said, as I close, there's people out there capping, and like I said, unfortunately, a lot of this hate that we're seeing It's not really for the right reason. And people are exposing themselves. And showing what their true intentions are. Unfortunately, Brother Garfield is one of them cats. Because he really does not give a fuck about what he's saying he gives a fuck about, which is what he did. No, he just was happy to get Brother Polite out the paint because he's seen him as a threat. He's seen him as competition. He doesn't really care. Because if people really cared about what they're acting like they care about, Nature Boy would have never been able to get as far as he did. That Rashad Jamal dude who's been accused of what he's now in jail for. Taharka Bay. We have an element that's protecting these type of cats. Stop the cap. Anyway, I'm out.